Good evening, good afternoon. Thank you to all of you who joined us. Thank you, Schneor, our pianist, and Meir, the clarinet. Chag Sameach. This Farbrengen, this get-together, is a preparation for Pesach. But I hope that this preparation will be a little different than all of the preparations that we all know so very well. I think that Pesach is probably the holiday that we have the most preparations. We're preparing in so many different areas, a lot of cleaning, a lot of cooking, a lot of festive investments. And we even see in the Jewish halacha that the Shabbat before Pesach has a special name, Shabbat HaGadol. That is something very unique. Only Pesach has a special Shabbat in preparation. Except for that, we have the bdika of the Hamitz, looking for the Hamitz the night before, and many other preparations. But I'm afraid that sometimes we're so busy in preparing the house and the food and so many other important things, we forget preparing the most important part, the part of our soul, of our heart. That's where we really need to prepare. And that's what we're trying to do together this evening, together, all of us. This isn't a lecture. This is going to be some live music. This is going to be some sharing of the thoughts together with a couple very special rabbis that are busy now helping the Jews from the Ukraine. I hope that together we will open our hearts and our souls, and we will come a little better prepared to Passover, L'chaim. I want to ask all of those that can open up their cameras so that we can really be together and feel each other a little bit more. Please open up your cameras. I want to invite now a dear rabbi from the Ukraine, Rabbi Levitinsky, Rabbi Yechiel Levitinsky, the rabbi of Chabad of Sami. He left the Ukraine with many miracles together with his community. And please, Rabbi Levitinsky, share with us some of your personal stories and some of your thoughts and feelings and how it is to prepare for Pesach after such an experience that is still just going on. And I'm sure we're just at the beginning of it. Please, Rabbi Levitinsky, thank you so much for joining us. Rabbi Levitinsky. Maybe Schneor and Meir, just start a quick Hasidic nigun for Pesach.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, 1 second, I don't hear you. There we go. Okay, good Erev Pesach to everybody. And actually back in Ukraine. So I hope the connection here is going to be strong enough so that I can keep the video and the sound. Can you hear me okay there? Okay, great. A little bit of thoughts. So as the rabbi just finished saying, preparing for Pesach, the spiritual part of preparing for Pesach, or as Hasidus explains, the search for chametz, the search for leavened bread, the difference between chametz and matzah is that matzah is flat, it doesn't rise, and chametz is anything that rises, dough that rises. And in short, Hasidus explains that that's the difference between someone who is egoistic and someone who's humble. When it comes to the miracle of Pesach, or the holiday of Pesach, we celebrate freedom, we celebrate independence, and the Torah teaches us that freedom and independence doesn't mean that you become egoistic and feel good about yourself. On the contrary, the real freedom is when we become humble and we accept the mitzvahs and the Torah, and that actually makes us free to do what we need to do in this world. And that concept it's actually a very deep concept. It's not so easy to internalize. And what I can say is that for me, the past 3.5 weeks have really set in and taught me that lesson. I've been the rabbi in Sumy, Ukraine. When I used to tell people that I live in Sumy, Ukraine, usually people would say, "Where is that?" Often people mix up Sumy with Sochi. Sochi is a city in Russia, and Sumy is a city in Ukraine. By now, anyone who's following the news knows pretty much where Sumy is. Unfortunately, we've been in the news too much. And Sumy is on the Russian border. It's a half-hour drive from the Russian border in northern Ukraine. And our city was pretty much under siege from the first hours of this whole ordeal. And basically, people weren't able to leave the city. We were hunkered down in the city, and during the day, I was able to get out and help people and bring food packages and medicines and things like that. And at night, there was curfew, and everyone had to be home. And this went on pretty much for about a week. At that time, according to all of the connections that we had, it was safer to be in the city than to leave the city, because the roads outside the city were literally a war zone. And then a week into this ordeal, on Thursday morning, after Wednesday rockets and things falling in the city, it became evident that we need to leave. And at that point, a lot of different things happened. So up until then, there was a very interesting feeling within the city. When I would go around in the city, I would walk to the stores, deliver things to people. People were coming up to me in the streets, in the stores, Jews, non-Jews, people that I know, people that I don't know. I'm a known person in the city. I don't know everybody, but they know me. And people were telling me how comforted they are just by knowing that I'm there. Because you're an American and you could easily go to America, and you're Jewish and you can easily go to Israel. So the fact that you stayed here and you're with us gives us our strength, and it gives us comfort. We feel very calm just by the fact that you're here. It was a very, very powerful feeling to know that you don't have to even do anything. Just the fact that I was there, that I was walking the streets, was giving people a calm feeling. It was making them feel good that they felt like they can be there together with me. When I decided that I needed to leave, that was the most difficult moment, because I was afraid that leaving would actually make people feel abandoned, especially the people in our community. And I called everybody in the community to ask them if they want to come along with me, and we would make some kind of a group, a bus, a few cars, whatever it is. At that point, it was so dangerous to leave that nobody wanted to take the risk. Nobody was willing to leave. And to make a long story short, I eventually took my own car with my family and I drove out of the city early Thursday morning and drove for 32 hours straight without stopping till we got to the Moldavian border, which is a long story, and I'm not going to get into it. Since it's a Farbrengen, I want to bring out a few points of things that happened to us, which I think are connected very strongly with the holiday of Pesach. For starters, nobody should ever have this feeling, but when you have to pack up your car with your kids and you have a choice of taking a couple of things, because not everybody, you can't fit everything in the car. The whole house doesn't go into the car. And we have to take along extra gasoline because we don't know if there's going to be gas along the road. So your baggage is limited, and you have to decide what's the important things in life. What do you really need, and what are you going to take with you? You have no idea when you're coming back, or if you're coming back, and if the house is going to be there when you come back. That moment, that thought, is a very powerful. It's a very powerful moment. I thank God I never felt that way ever before, and I hope I never have to ever after. But to think about that for a moment and think, what are the real important things in my life that I need, that I cannot go without? And it's just a very powerful moment. When we read the story of Pesach, we see that the Jews left Mitzrayim, they left Egypt, and they borrowed gold and silver, and they took along they took all their belongings and the belongings of the Egyptians and everything else. And the Torah tells us that when Mashiach comes, we're going to take all of our belongings with us. Kaspam uzahavam itam. Our gold and our silver, all our homes, everything is going to Yerushalayim. So that's a very comforting thought, to think about how the Jews left Mitzrayim, and this humbling, really humbling thought about what's really important in life. What do I really need in my life that I have to take with me, and what could I leave behind? It is a very humbling moment. You kind of come to terms and realize how petty a lot of the things are that we have. Another very powerful moment was when we were in the city, after the first few days of this ordeal. Nobody really believed that that a city like Sumy was going to survive a few hours even. We're talking about, David and Goliath. You're talking about an incredible amount of soldiers and tanks and artillery coming into a place that has potatoes and bottles from Molotov cocktails. It doesn't match up. And after a couple of days, when things were the tables were turning and people realized that we're actually still in the city, and we're encircled, but we're still here, and we're still okay, and we still have what we need, and we weren't conquered or taken over. people started walking around saying, this is a real miracle. This is a miracle. It's unbelievable. Doesn't make any sense. Towards the end of the week that I was there, I was actually working pretty much every day with the volunteers in the city, and one of the volunteers, or a couple of the volunteers, many of them are religious figures in the city, and one of the priests who knows me and I know him, he comes up to me and he says, "Rabbi, I want to tell you what I've been telling my community." He says, "I've been watching on Facebook and Twitter, and I see how the Jewish communities around the world are praying for Ukraine. And I told my community that I'm sure that the miracles we're seeing happening to us are happening because the Jewish people are praying for us. Because these are the types of miracles that happen only in the Bible. And they happen only to the Jewish people. So if they're happening to us, it's only because the Jewish people are praying for us." And that concept was something that I was hearing from people on the street. It was an unbelievable thing to see how regular, people came to terms with the fact that they were seeing a live miracle in front of their eyes, and they were thanking Hashem, they were thanking God for saving them and for making a miracle that they can see in their own way. They were also crediting the Jewish people for this, which is also a miracle in and of itself for anyone who knows the history of Ukraine and Eastern Europe. That for problems to come, or for things to happen and Jewish people to be blamed, is a very common thing. But for them to be given credit for something good doesn't always happen. So this was also a very comforting feeling, and also again connected with Pesach, where it was obvious that the miracles that happened were because of the Jewish people, and the whole world came to terms with it and realized that Hashem was leading the Jewish people out of Egypt. And before Mashiach comes, the same also, we're told, that all the nations of the world will realize that Hashem controls the world, that the Jewish people are being taken out of exile, and this is something which is it's unbelievable to see it, to actually see it or hear it in real life. Another very powerful moment for me, and again I think this can also be connected with Pesach, is when we reached the border of Moldavia and then the border of Romania, and then afterwards when I went back to Poland. On the border there were people standing with signs, like you see people standing with signs in the airports, greeting people, and people were standing with these posters saying free apartments. I have a 3-bedroom home for free, food for free, SIM cards for your phone free. People were giving out money, accommodations. We drove into Moldavia. It was Erev Shabbos. I was trying to get to the Chabad in Kishinev, which is 3 hours from the border. We wanted to get there before Shabbos. Baruch Hashem, we did. And when we drove onto the main road, I wasn't sure that I was on the right path. I pulled over to the side to make sure that my Google Maps was actually giving me the right directions. So I pulled over to the side, and a car pulled up behind me. He pulls up behind me. A person gets out of the car. He asks me to roll down my window. And he says, "I see your number plates, your license plate is from Ukraine. Did you just come from Ukraine?" So I said, "Yeah." He says, "I have a home 10 minutes from here. Maybe you want to bring your family there. It's an empty house for free." So I told him, "No, actually, I have where to stay. It's fine. Thank you very much." He says, "So do you need something to eat? You probably took a long trip to get here. Do you need food? I have food in my car." I said, "No, it's fine. We eat only kosher." He says, "Do you have money?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I have money." He says, "No, but you don't have local money." He pulls out the local currency from his pocket, and he's like asking me to please take money from him, so, so that I could have the local money. I shouldn't have the bother of going to change dollars or grivna into the local money. It was such an incredible feeling of care, love, outstretching hands of human beings being human. But it was even more powerful to see it from countries that, unfortunately, in our history, we don't have very good vibes about the open arms that they gave us, especially as Jewish people. And seeing this again in Moldavia and then in Romania and then again in Poland from so many local citizens, just local people who themselves don't have too much, but they're coming to the border to welcome people, that just give them whatever they have and ask them to please. This is an unbelievable, it was an incredible feeling of humanity. And it really expresses, I think, what the Lubavitcher Rebbe said to the reporters when they came to him and asked him, "What's your message to the world?" And the Rebbe said that his message to the world is that you should do another deed of goodness and kindness, and that's going to bring Mashiach. And this is something that I saw it in front of my eyes, how the people just, the human people of all different nations coming together and just to do another deed of goodness and kindness to help another person. And obviously, as the Jewish nation, we have the responsibility to teach the world how to love one another. That is the whole concept of Avas Yisrael. I'll finish just with one other thought that many of you may not know, but the Ukrainian and Russian Jewish people, they know Pesach. Pesach is their holiday. It's like Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur for American or European Jewry. In America, when a Jew wants to say that he's detached from Judaism to the utmost extent, he'll say, "I don't even go to shul on Yom Kippur. I'm so detached. I'm so detached from Judaism. I won't even step into a shul on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur." In Ukraine, Jewish people don't really know about Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, but everybody knows about Pesach and everybody knows about Matzah. Hanukkah time, people come to the shul and they want to know, when is the matzah coming, because we need to buy matzah for Pesach. It's ingrained in their memory. They remember their parents doing whatever they could to get matzah for Pesach, and this is something that they all know. Pesach is the biggest holiday for us. The Seder is the biggest holiday, the biggest attendance in any Ukrainian or Russian shul. And it's really an incredible opportunity for anybody who is in Europe. I don't even know who I'm talking to and where you guys are, but anyone who's in Europe or who is in Israel or America. Not so many Ukrainians came to America, but there are plenty of Ukrainians and Russians there from long before. If you have Russian, Ukrainian friends, neighbors, you just happen to see them, new immigrants that came from Ukraine or Russia, this is an unbelievable opportunity to introduce them to your home, to bring them in for a Seder. They will not refuse you for a Seder. They all know what a Seder is. They all know what matzah is. And inviting them into your home will be the greatest thing that you can do for these people, because that's all really that they're looking for. They're looking for friends. They're looking for a shoulder to lean on, and that's pretty much why I actually came back to Poland, and I'll be running a public seder for the refugees who are in Warsaw in Poland. together with my colleague Rabbi Gopin, who was the shliach in Lugansk, and then 8 years ago ran away to Kiev, and now ran away again. He's on his second golus, his second exile. And hopefully together with everybody, we will celebrate Pesach with Mashiach in the Beis Hamikdash, and we won't have to worry about all of the negative issues that are happening around us. We'll only see good in the world, and the world will become peaceful forever. L'chaim to everyone. And on a last note, really last thought, tomorrow night is the Rebbe's 120th birthday, which is a very monumental number, 120, and definitely an apropos time to add something in Torah and mitzvahs, in goodness and kindness, because that's really what the Rebbe stood for and what the Rebbe lived for. And the Rebbe says himself and wrote in a book that he wrote in Hayom Yom that from 3 years old, his dream, his wish was to be able to see Mashiach, to bring Mashiach. And the Rebbe says, do one more mitzvah, do one more good deed, and that's going to do it. That's going to bring Mashiach. So again, l'chaim, and a freilichem, kosher and freilichem Pesach to everybody.
Chaim. Chaim.
Shikoach.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Levitansky. I didn't realize you're back in the Ukraine. Be'atzlacha. A lot of success. Absolutely. I agree with the priest. We're going to continue praying for all of you guys.
Thank you.
invite Rabbi Orgad, a dear Chabad rabbi from Romania, on the border right next to Ukraine. He's busy helping the refugees, the Jewish refugees that are coming in from the Ukraine. Rabbi Orgad is very, very, very busy. But he was kind enough to share with us a couple of his very meaningful experiences. And I hope this also can be another preparation for Pesach. Rabbi Orgad, L'chaim.
L'chaim, L'chaim. Seems like the rabbi is talking from the cars these days. Anyway, so L'chaim, L'chaim. First of all, we need to say the most important thing for Chodesh Nisan. Benisan nigalu, ubenisan atidin leigael. This month is a month of Geulah for us. It's a month of the time that Bezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, will bring us back to Eretz HaKodesh, and we will be able to go to Beit HaMikdash, to see the Kohanim and the Kohen HaGadol and everything. Bezrat Hashem, it will be this month. And before even Leila Seder, we will all go to Eretz HaKodesh, Bezrat Hashem. I asked to speak about Ukraine, so I will give you some thoughts from the other side, from the border, the Romanian border. For me, the last month and so, it was a fantastic time, not just because it was so busy, it also was a time that it gives me a different perspective of the Jewish life and the meaning of being a Jew outside of Israel. I got a phone call, let's say a day or two after the after they invade to Ukraine, and the guy told me, listen, we're sending you 100 people ASAP. I said, okay, you can send, but I don't have where to put them. I don't have food. I don't have anything. He told me, listen, this is the situation. You have to take care of it. So immediately I phoned another guy here in the city, a Jewish guy that is well connected here. And we went to the biggest and I think the most expensive hotel in the city. We said that refugees are deserved to have the best condition after they run away from their homes. So we rent the whole hotel. It's like 200 and something rooms, the best hotel in the city. And we kosherized the kitchen. We send meat and milk and wine and everything that we need in big quantities from France, from Poland, from Hungary here to Cluj. And we start to get in people. And it was the middle of the night, the first group came, and it was a group from the city of Zhytomyr. City of Zhytomyr back in the days was one of the most important Jewish city in this area. And Rabbi Villalem established there 25 years ago a beautiful community with hundreds, I think thousands of Jewish people that live in the city. And most of the group, the first group was orphan kids that was in the orphan house that Rabbi Villalem established there. So the picture that me and my wife saw in the middle of the night, it was, I think, 3 or 4 o'clock in the middle of the night, 100 kids going down from buses. Some of the kids was 3 or 4 years old, no mother, no father, just staff of the institute that help them to get down from the buses, take the luggages and all the things that they brought with them, and walking inside the hotel. And it was a picture that remind me and other people that was there, dark times that Am Israel was experienced before. But Baruch Hashem, in this situation, we had the privilege to help them. We accommodate them in very good hotel. We brought a special chef, Israeli chef that can make the best food, and we just had the most important time and the most important possibility to help them to go through these difficult times in the easiest way that we can manage for them. And the interesting thing that was that after 2 or 3 days that the refugees was in our hotel, eventually we came with we had like 500 or 600 people in total in our city, and the rumor was spreading around all over the area, not just the city, all over the villages around our city. And people are just not just Jewish. Actually, the most of the people that were coming, there wasn't Jew, and they came just to bring us. They heard about the kids from Ukraine, so they just came to bring us food, blankets, toys for the kids, a notebook to write, or whatever they had. Even people went to the stores to buy new clothes to bring the kids, to bring the other refugees that was there. The feeling was that the world is changed. The world is not the same as the story that we heard from World War II or other situation that was in our people history. And we felt that something had changed. And I asked one of the guys, one of the people that came to bring stuff, what he drove like 2 hours just to bring, if I remember correctly, it was 2 bags of new clothes that he bought. I asked them why. Probably it was a busy day for you also, you went to work and this and that. You took 2 hours back and forth just to bring for these kids new clothes. Why is that? So he told me, we, the Romanian people, especially in this area, our city is called Cluj-Napoca, but back in the days it was Klausenburg. As you probably know, the famous city of Klausenburg. So he said, we need to, he didn't say the word redeem, but he said, we need to give something back to the Jewish people. We need to give them a new impression about our way of life, about our way of doing things also. So he said, this is why I took the time. I drove 2 hours back and forth just to bring clothes for those kids. That was one of the enlightened moments. Also, doing Shabbat, the first Shabbat that we had here with the refugees. So after Shacharit, we sat down. We had Kiddush, and then we sat down for Bringen. And people start to express the feeling what they had. And then I heard stories that only my grandmother told me this kind of stories that she was experiencing World War II. And I tell you one of the stories that I heard. A group of 15 or 20 young boys, Jewish boys, they was separate from the parents because, I don't know, the bus was full, whatever. So they took a group that they all knew each other, and they put them on a minibus, like a small bus. And that bus was supposed to take them through the border from Ukraine to Moldova. But in the middle of the night, the bus driver decided not to go through the regular border. So we told them that I'm going to go through the forest. Probably one of the boys didn't have all the documents that he needs. So he went through the forest. And in the middle of the forest, the engines stopped working. We're talking about a month ago. We're talking about middle of the night. It's freezing in Ukraine this time. Everything is snowing. There is no proper clothes for the boys because they didn't prepare to walk in the middle of the forest in the middle of the night. But that was the situation. And this young boy told me that he was walking with his group for 6 or 7 hours from the point that the engine stopped in the middle of the forest. They were walking to inside from Ukraine inside Moldavia, and they try to pass by the border without have any documents because one of the guys or two of the guys didn't have all the proper documents that they need. And eventually they came to Moldova. No one was waiting for them there because no reception, no phones, and no one knew where are they. So when they came inside Moldova, they came to the nearest village or whatever, then they contact, someone was there with the phone, so they took his phone and they called and this and that. He told me that in these 5 or 6 hours, he felt that the only thing that he can help him, it's Akadosh Baruch Hu, it's God. So he told me that he was crying a lot. He said Kriyat Shema a lot of times. He asked Hashem to give him the strength to survive this situation. And we were amazed that to see him in flesh here in our city, sitting in the Chabad house, in the Fabrengen. It was something that the feeling was very, very high. And we're talking about that tomorrow it will be the 120 years Yom Huledet for the Rebbe. And as Rabbi Levitinsky said from Sumi, that the Rebbe teaches us that everything that we do, every good act that we do in our life, in the world that we are living in, it doesn't matter to who, but if you do something good, if you do a good act, so you bring Moshiach closer and closer. And not just this, you brought light that can make the world much more better place. So Bezrat Hashem, we hope that we will have the possibility to fulfill this mission, to bring light to this world, and to bring more good acts, and to try to make this world a better place. And then Bezrat Hashem, we will all go to Eretz Israel, to Beit HaMikdash HaShlishi, together with Mashiach Tzidkeinu. L'chaim, l'chaim.
L'chaim. Thank you so much, Rabbi Orgad. B'atzlacha. Continue the good,
Amen.
important work.
Thank you.
I want to meet you in Eretz Israel together with all of your community.
Bezrat Hashem, Bezrat Hashem. Thank you.
Pesach kasher v'sameach.
Pesach kasher v'sameach. To all of you.
Thank you. L'chaim. L'chaim. Notice that the two V'hisha Amda that we sing, all of us on Seder night, the two different tunes that Meir and Schneur played just now are very different. One of them is, one might even say in Yiddish, kvetching, crying out, begging, please save us, please help us, like you saved our great-grandparents. And the other one is a very happy, optimistic, lively V'hisha Amda. I think in many ways, that's part of the story of Seder night. I thought that as a good preparation for Pesach, we might maybe learn together, or like we do on Seder night, at least ask questions together about one of the very famous pieces of the Haggadah. It happens to be the piece that we just start at the beginning, Halach Ma'anya. Eli, if you can be kind enough and maybe share with all of us the Halach Ma'anya. Thank you. It's actually, as I was going through the Haggadah, I think this piece from the Haggadah, Halach Ma'anya, is not only connected to our Pesach this year after the stories that we were lucky to hear from the border of Ukraine and from in Ukraine, but it looks like this is the very first piece that we all say Pesach night, right after we do the Kiddush. And as we sit down to start reading together with our family and with our guests on a very festive evening, or maybe one might say that is probably the most out of all of the evenings that the Jewish people have. We like festives and we like parties. And still, I think that Pesach night, the Seder night, is the most of all of them. It's brought down that all of your nicest silverware and silver and whatever you have, you bring out for the Seder table, and you wear your best suit, your newest garment, and the whole concept of it is of redemption, of freedom, how we are all kings, Bnei Melachim, the children of kings. And then suddenly, we start reading the Haggadah, and we're talking about this lechem oni, halach ma'anya, right? This is the matzah, the food of the poor that our fathers ate in Egypt. And for some very weird reason, our rabbis decided to start the Haggadah from halach ma'anya. Now, if we continue on, the second sentence, we are suddenly inviting all of those who are hungry, all of those who need something. Kol detzrich yetei ve'yifsach. All those who are needed are more than cordially invited to join our Seder table. How is that connected to the Pesach Seder night? How is that connected to our redemption? Now it makes it even more confusing, because when we continue on to the third sentence, in the third sentence we come and we say out, Hashata hacha leshana haba'a be'ara de Yisrael. We are now over here, and hopefully next year we will be in Israel. And just to be completely clear about what we mean, there's one more sentence Hashata Avde. We are now slaves. Next year, Lishana Haba'a B'nei Chorim. We will be all freed. Why is that what we choose to start the Seder night with? I think I want to offer my explanation. I think the question is much better than any answer, at least the answers I thought of, but still a beginning of a thought. The most dangerous thing that might happen to us after leaving Egypt, after we are all redeemed and finally have our freedom in our big home and enjoying our family Seder, that we suddenly might forget Egypt and we suddenly might take it all for granted. We might feel so comfortable and we might think that this is obvious. This is how it always has been. And I want to offer that the minute we forget that what our great-grandparents had and what our dear brothers and sisters are experiencing now in the Ukraine or in other countries, if we forget that and we take it all for granted, then we're no more in a true freedom, no more in a Jewish freedom. Part of being in freedom is always remembering the broken, the poor, the needed. It's not only the poor and the needed out in Ukraine, it's also in our homes in Israel and in America and in Brazil and in many, many other places that we are lucky to be living in. I think there's so many different ways of being poor. I think there are those who need food. There are those who need clothes. There are those who are looking for some warmth or for a smile. There are those who are hungry for some spirituality. All of those different ways of being poor, of being a slave, they exist. They exist within us, within each one of us. And if we remember that, and when we start the Seder, we remember that that's where we started off, and that's where we still are in many, many ways. Hashata Avde, we are still slaves. Only after we realize that can we really have a real redemption and experience together with all of our brothers and sisters around the world a true redemption. Lishana haba'a b'Yerushalayim habnuya. I wish, as the rabbis before me already blessed us, that we all already this year, not next year, we join together and enjoy the Jewish people from all over the world together in Jerusalem. I only have a 4-bedroom apartment, but you're all more than cordially invited. L'chaim, l'chaim. We will sing another nigun, and then any other of our Shalhevet participants in the Farbrengen, please join us and share with us your thoughts. Shana Tova, have a Chag Kasher v'Sameach. invite Ariella Ruderman to share with us her thoughts. But just beforehand, I want to wish a refuah shlema, a complete health, a quick health to our dear director, Natan Gesundheit, was supposed to be with us here this evening, but isn't feeling well. I hope to dance together with you in Yerushalayim Abnuya in Jerusalem. Natan is a Kohen, so please feel better quickly so that we all can enjoy your hard work in the temple. Ariella Ruderman.
Hi, thank you. You know, I didn't feel so bad cleaning my stove when I saw the rabbis were in their cars. Lahavdil, I'm sure they're doing some really exciting things. But I was like, should I go on camera? I'm scrubbing my stove, and I was hoping that it would add to the ambiance of the event. So hopefully that's okay. I want to just tell you, you know, we live in Denver. My husband is an Army chaplain, and every year we make seders on an Army base for soldiers. And basically there's a hotel not so far from a chapel. So we go down to the hotel and we cook everything at home and we set it up, and we have our wagon to bring all of our things over there, and we set up a seder. Sometimes we have like one person or two people. Sometimes we have more than that. We've had up to 50, 60 people. It really depends on the base. And it's a pretty exciting experience. We made our own Haggadah, and I worked together with a rabbi that I know to hit the 5 mitzvahs of the evening so that we could do our Seder in 60 minutes, which is pretty long for the attention span of some of our soldiers, but at least we hit all the mitzvahs. So it's kind of an alternative Seder. And then usually we go up through Karpas with them. And then at the end, my husband and I sit down and we do our own Seder, which is really kind of an incredible moment, because we say the words and they really come alive after all that. So that's how we do Pesach at Fort Carson, and we did that at West Point and in Germany. So in terms of Helach Ma'anya, you know, like you said, that there are a lot of different types of hunger. I haven't met Baruch Hashem, I don't really know anybody who doesn't have enough food to eat. That's not the big problem here in Denver or in Fort Carson. But people here, you know, the food that they lack is spiritual food, is Torah. So when I want to come and offer something, you know, of course we bring the matzah and the seder, but we also bring sometimes the first words of Torah that people have ever heard. We've met people who didn't know they were Jewish until they met my husband. It's pretty incredible to be that first seder for somebody who just found out that they're Jewish. There's really nothing like it. One of the things that my husband and I are always kind of conscious of is that nobody should leave the same as from where they came in. And, you know, and all these different like things on the Seder plate and all the people, like it's a whole cast of characters. Not only the people, but the wine is almost like a character, and the matzah and all of it, you know, it each has its moment to shine. But Helach Ma'anya is not the first time that we meet the matzah in the evening. The first time we meet the matzah is when we break it. And that's when we create the lechem oni. It's when we break it up into all of its pieces, and we break it into the 5 pieces. We want to sweeten the severities, but there's still severities, and it's still, that is the lechem oni, that broken piece. And as soon as we kind of take it out and we hold it up and we say, Helach Ma'anya, this is the bread of affliction, it starts this transformation process by being shared. You know, when you're totally broken and devastated, you don't really think about other people so much. You're kind of wrapped up in your own suffering, and that's legitimate. But the way out of it, the way out of that broken spot starts with Helach Ma'anya, come, share with me. There's going to be enough. It's going to be okay. And there's like kind of a hope in there. Even though it's a poor man's bread, it kind of stops being quite as poor when you start to share it with other people. And then through the evening, the matzah goes through this transformation from being lechem oni to the bread of freedom. By the end of the night, you know, we're like remembering how the matzah was, the thing that sustained us until we got the man. It was the thing that came with us into our freedom. The wine transforms too. It starts off, with the 4 expressions of redemption. We go through all the steps, and by the end of the night, we've got the 5th cup. We don't get to drink it yet, but it's there on the table. The wine totally changes its dimension, and then we're like ready to, take that 5th cup and to, invite Eliyahu Navi to share his good news with us, and let's go to Yerushalayim. It's time to go, and that's how we end the Seder. And so it's just my sincere hope and prayer that everybody that comes to the Seder, be it in Fort Carson or anybody's home, even your own kids, even your own self, doesn't leave the same as they came. And I think that, it's like a big ship, you sit around the table and you're like all passengers on this journey together. It's not just a table. It becomes like this, it's become something that just moves and changes you. You come out different. So that's my farbrengen on Helach Ma'anya and Matzah and Seder. And thanks for letting me share. I'm really excited to be a part of this group and have a kosher and a Freilich Pesach.
L'chaim, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just to end this farbrengen, we will start a Breslev, Rabbi Nachman of Breslev, Nigun. This tune is saying that the end of the Seder night, Karev Yom Shehu Lo Yom Velo Laila. We're praying, we're asking that finally the day that is not day or night, that is the day of the full redemption, that we finally will be lucky to see that day. So l'chaim, everybody, and have a happy kosher Pesach. Light, Ta'ir, Cheshchat Laila. Chag Sameach. Have a happy Passover. Thank you for joining us. Laila Tov.